It's an emergency meeting of the Parks Advisory Board as requested by interim city manager. Are you interim or are you city manager Brad Matkin?
As long as it's nice. You call me
That
whatever you
sounds
want.
nice. Doesn't that sound nice?
Interim, I guess, right now, yeah.
So we should start with the flag salute. No, we normally do that at the start of the meeting. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Lacey, you want to do a roll call?
Sure.
Do we need to do roll call? That part of the formality?
I don't know.
Let's
Yeah.
go ahead and do that.
Okay. Chris Catalano,
Present.
Choi,
Present.
John,
Here.
Seth,
Here.
and Madison. Absent. And
Madison's
Frank.
absent.
Frank is here. So we have a quorum.
Okay, the email all of us received indicated that this was about the funds that YAT team sent to Parks Advisory Board for managing and splash pad fundraising. And I suspected after I saw that email that the splash pad committee would like to make a presentation to us to pursue those funds. So Bailey, is that you?
At all, but yes, we can.
I will say right now, the YAT team donated $37,000. That's what was in the fund.
Today.
Yeah, as of today, $37,000 to the Parks
Okay,
fund.
okay.
Hi, my name's Bailey Lyons, and I am on the committee trying to bring this park to Fort Scott, as well as Josh Jones, Meredith Tucker, Katie Houston, and Kelly Barr, who was unable to make it today. I'm sure you've heard talk about the splash pad, but we are proposing an all-inclusive park plan with a splash pad and the addition of some dry play areas that include sensory and harmony play elements to make this a truly all-inclusive, completely accessible park to everyone. We believe this park will improve the quality of life and community engagement by providing an outdoor recreational amenity that encourages and fosters socialization and inclusion for all demographics. If you turn we apologize that these printed so big, we didn't intend for them to, but you should have no trouble seeing. If you turn to the second page, we kind of have a site analysis there as far as where we are proposing that this park goes. So this committee has looked at a lot of different locations and spent hours upon hours trying to figure out where the best spot is for this and why we had to rule out some other areas. So these parks are supposed to go where the people are, where they're accessible, where they're visible, where they're in close proximity to other amenities, where they're safe. So with all of that and a ton more things taken into consideration, we've arrived at the west end of Skubitz Plaza. You'll see the proposed mock-up there. It's directly south of the Evergy building, between the Evergy building and H&H by the Blockhouse, and west of the fort. We believe this will contribute to the revitalization of a vibrant, growing community district in our downtown historic district, and it will support other amenities in the area such as retail, restaurants, museums, event space, and lodging. And specifically, why Skubitz Plaza over some other areas? One, accessibility to people from all areas of town, east side, west side. Visibility, studies show you do not want to put these parks where it doesn't have a lot of eyes on it, where there's not a lot of visibility. And also that's twofold: visibility to locals and visibility to tourists and visitors to our town that might not be aware that we have such an amenity. The infrastructure is already there, and we have worked with the company that we're working with on these parks to make sure, as far as all the underground lines and things like that, that's all been mapped out, and we've worked around that already. That infrastructure being in place made putting this park in this area drastically, over $100,000 cheaper than in some other areas where people have brought up. It's also a safe location. That Old Fort Boulevard there down Scubitz, the traffic already goes slow because of the winding nature of the road. And again, visibility's sake, there's eyes on it, it's lit up. And then, as I mentioned before, the proximity to restaurants, retail, museums, lodging, that type of thing, and then the overall cost effectiveness. If you flip your page, the next page shows you our proposed design that we've spent a lot of time. We've had a lot of revisions to this. This is the exact splash pad that matches that overhead view that was on the page you just looked at. These are the exact elements. These elements were chosen for a lot of different reasons, and I could stand up here and talk about it for longer than you want to listen, but just know these weren't picked because they're pretty. They weren't picked, although we do think they're pretty. We're happy with how the design turned out. But functionality-wise, this is designed to appeal to a wide range of ages. It's designed to appeal for family play. It is completely accessible. There are elements in here that are designed for sensory play. They're designed for kiddos that might be in wheelchairs, people that have balance or accessibility, mobility issues, and they're designed to engage problem solving, cognitive thinking, sensory play. So there's a ton of thought that went into this, and we worked with a lot of experts in determining the best makeup with our budget. So what you're seeing there is exactly what we would have in Fort Scott. And if you flip your page again, what is a splash pad? That's a comment we've received. Splash pads are interactive. They're a zero depth water playground with very intentionally designed features, as I mentioned. So tactile, auditory, and sensory components provide for cause and effect observation, cognitive development, experimentation, imaginative thinking, teamwork, problem solving, and learning, all while making it super fun. So this will foster physical and social development, provide stimulation for all physical and mental abilities. There are no barriers at all to enjoyment on this. It's free. It's completely accessible to anyone of any physical and mental ability, and it encourages interaction for all. With that, before we get into the sensory and harmony part, I'm gonna turn it over to Josh Jones for any questions on our specific splash pad. We're doing a pass-through design. We've checked into water pressure, utilities, all of that, and some of the cost and maintenance, if you have any questions on that. And then we'll go to Meredith for the sensory and harmony part.
So I don't know if you guys have any questions on the functionality or the maintenance or anything that I could help with. Any general questions? The major, I'll just say a few things. The major maintenance to this is the winterization when it's not in use. Other than that, the pass-through system's set up for minimal, it costs more up front, but it's minimal work or maintenance throughout basically you go in there a couple times a week, make sure, check a light in the system, and that's it. I think it's the same design. The company that does this did the one in Chanute and Pittsburgh, and I think another one in Kansas City. They're local. They're from Yates Center, so they're local people, and so it's a little bit more than just a company coming here and doing. They really care about certain things. And
I have a question.
yep.
I know there's been a lot of discussion about whether the water would be recycled or not. And it's my understanding that it's considerably more expensive to have a system where the water is recycled.
So they suggest on towns that have to pay for their water and actual cost, they would suggest the research, where there's less water usage, but towns like Fort Scott where we make our own water basically, this is just the better system for it. And like I said, it's a little more upfront, but overall I think it's the best way to go. And it just works out that Fort Scott, we have our own water supply as well. So there is still water cost. Just like the pool, just like Doug knows water in the golf course, but it's a lot more minimal than if we had to pay for it at retail rate.
Also, Josh, you might tell him that the recirculation systems, when you don't, they require a lot more technical training and people can get sick if the chemicals aren't.
Yeah, but you
balanced.
really, with that, just like the pool, chemicals got to be, and it really is, you got to have basically a trained person on staff. This is just any Joe Blow. I mean, it's basically, they can come down and show you in an hour what you need to do. Probably not even that. So it's very simple to use and to maintain and operate, so.
So I have a follow-up, just to eliminate confusion. So it's running off city water in, city sewer out, or it is a recycle system?
It will run on city water and run into the storm drain.
Okay.
Won't be tied into the sewer.
Okay.
So, and there's been some question about water pressure. We actually have to put a reducer on this because the water pressure in that area is actually too much for this. So it's not, I mean, I think a lot of people think it's running the whole time, they're push button activated. And so it's not like water's just constantly running the whole time. And so, like I said, the reducer we'll have to put on there. I think it has 70 pounds right through, and I think we just need 20 pounds pressure, so.
Question I have, and I guess it's probably because of underground, other things underground, the reason, the location right there being so close to the block, closer to the blockhouse rather than maybe down into that corner.
Yeah, so to the south, there's an electric line running, which could be moved. I mean, it's just running, I believe, one light pole. I think a city actually put it in. So, I mean, I think there's a gas line, I can't remember. There's a few lines up there, so when,
in here.
yeah, so all that was put in effect, and that's, we fit it in the area where we wouldn't have to do no other construction to move any other sewer, water, or electric lines.
I figured that was probably it.
Yeah. Any other questions on maintenance or the water costs or anything?
I can tell you, when the idea first came out, the talk about putting it in Gun Park, I immediately was opposed to the
Oh, I
whole
know.
thought of a
you told
splash
me.
pad. But I love the location. I think it's a great choice. And congratulations to you and your team for
Yeah.
all the progress that you've made.
Yeah, and I will say, it's probably, time goes by so quick. Maybe a year to 2 years ago, Kristen and Will Bishop reached out to me, and that's kind of how it got started. And they actually moved out of town and had some things. And so that's when Bailey kind of stepped up. And honestly, we planned on maybe 2024, 2025 to raise this much money. I mean, we never planned on raising it this quick. And so it kind of expedited things. Gun Park was my initial location, but after talking to people, people say they're not talking to citizens, but we did, and people said, well, we like the greenery, we like, and certain things. So then we said, I think it was before Bailey came on, what about Ellis Park? Well, there's a lot of vandalism up there. We talked about next to the Aquatic Center. Well, if you've ever been to the Aquatic Center, when they're full, they actually reach capacity a lot. And my thoughts were, we charge for the Aquatic Center, and if you have something free next to it, it might actually take away from it. And we thought a lot of kids might have been left there, because at the pool, a lot of times you're just dropped off, and the lifeguards are babysitters. So talk about the skate park area, that people said that. So we thought out here, where you're not relying on lifeguards to babysit the kids all day. And really it is probably the best location out of all of them.
So that does bring up a question. It's not going to have to be staffed.
No. With the entry, zero water is what they call it, so it doesn't have to be staffed. And the majority of these after doing this research, are downtown. And as I was telling, my mom lives in Savannah, Georgia, and she moved down there mid-'90s, right when the Olympics came. We went to Atlanta for the Olympics, and that's right when they built a splash pad. I mean, it was more decorative than a splash pad for kids, and it was right in the middle of downtown. And that was probably my first time ever seeing one, and so we've always seen them down to any movies you see. There's water features and stuff down there for families and kids. So
Josh, there was a study done that said we needed a water.
yes. I can't remember what study it was when I first came on the planning commission in 18 or whatever. I think it was a year. There was a study done. I think it was Mark McCoy or someone told me that one of the things was a water feature downtown was in the long-term plan, and so.
I've pushed for downtown a long time.
Yeah.
Shoot, I'd put it in the middle of Main Street.
Love the location, right in front of the fort too. It's so
Yeah,
cool.
and we've, the businesses around there, HB Cat, Jody Hayner, the Bowmans I've talked to, the Lipes, the Freemans, all those that are within, probably the closest to it, all of them have given support to the location. So we think bringing people downtown, and now they can find ways of bringing those people into their business and gaining revenue off of it.
Shoot, I'd said if, Flo Milton hadn't had control of that space in between there.
Absolutely, that would have been,
That's where I would.
Yep. yeah.
So the splash pad has been in discussion for quite a while, and we've been working on that plan for quite a while. But as we were fundraising for the splash pad, some questions started coming up about what happened to the goal of building a truly all-inclusive accessible park with the project that YAT started years back. And so that leads us into why we're here to talk to you guys in addition to the splash pad. As we talk to area businesses downtown and citizens and families and kiddos, we realized that we were missing, we have a huge gap in our community for a play area that is truly inclusive and accessible to all of our kiddos. And since a splash pad fills that need for almost all kiddos, we thought, why not go completely all inclusive? So some kiddos in power wheelchairs might not be able to do the splash pad. I mean, you can in a regular wheelchair for sure, but kids in power chairs, that might be difficult, or kids with sensory issues that just don't do well with water. So that is where we wanted to add the Sensory and Harmony Park, and Meredith Tucker has been incredibly instrumental in that part, so I'm going to let her chat with you. We specifically made this addition with a budget in mind. It's a smaller than what the original Yacht Dream was. I think that was a couple $100,000 park in and of itself, but we thought this was a wonderful addition, and the elements were selected very carefully, and we thought that this complemented the splash pad very well. And if you see from that overhead view, the sidewalks connect the two, and along the sidewalks there's musical instruments. All of these elements are completely accessible to all kiddos or adults that would want to use them. And so I'm going to let Meredith talk a little bit more about that part of things.
So I'm going to try not to get emotional because I have been in this community for a long time. I'm a lifelong resident. I have a sister with disabilities, and I'm a pediatric therapist. So the reason why I'm passionate is because we have a high density population in this community that has either physical needs, sensory needs, whether it be autism, sensory processing, balance disorders, congenital disorders, and they have no place to go. They're locked in their homes, they're limited in our community because we don't have accessible parks. We have amazing park systems here, but unfortunately they don't reach that population. Not only for children, but for our adult populations that have mobility issues. They aren't able to take their grandchildren to the park and engage with them. They're not able to take their own children to the park to engage with them because our parks, unfortunately, are very uneven. They're not accessible by wheelchair, or just if you have balance issues, they're high tripping obstacles. So this addition allows us to be 100% accessible year-round park use, which we don't have that option. The sensory or the splash park is amazing because it does allow that summertime fun, water access that is able to be gauged. So if kiddos are a little bit fearful of water, they can slowly engage in it, with unlike the pool system where parents just don't feel comfortable taking their children with disabilities into a pool system. This allows them to slowly get used to water, engage with it, but also the dry areas allow those kids to flow seamlessly in between the areas. So if they get overstimulated in the water area, they can go over to the wheelchair accessible merry-go-round and be able to wheel around that, take a break, or they can go over to the spinner seats and get a little bit of sensory stimulation out before they go back over to their peer groups that is crowded, or they can go play the musical instruments, allow them to sensory regulate and engage with our peers. You can kind of see some of the equipment that we have here, the drums that are set up. the symbols, the flowers. We have them paired in settings that will allow peer-to-peer interaction. So they can stand by each other and play the flowers together, or they can go over and play the xylophone together. Everything's kind of grouped so that we can encourage as much peer interaction, both with our typically developing our peers and our children who have additional needs. It is encouraging language development, cognitive development, physical and motor skills, and it just allows them to have the freeness that every kiddo in our community deserves. So, any questions for me? Sorry, I can't help it. I'm just so excited about this. It's been a big, important thing for my community. I had parents in tears when they were writing letters about the potential of this. So I really hope you see it from our perspective for our kids that have been left out for a lot of time.
Is there area that can be expanded on later on?
There is additional grassy area in there. As you can kind of see from the overhead picture, it does leave out quite a bit of grassy area in the overhead view. I think it'd be your second page in the pamphlet. You can kind of see from the overhead view. The ground covering that you see, like the green circles that are on the concrete pads, those are fall zones, so it's poured rubber matting that helps reduce fall. So Gun Park had installed some rubber chipping with the park's grants that they got to help with fall reduction. And those are fantastic, but unfortunately they're very uneven. So walkers, wheelchairs, kiddos who have balance disorders can't really get through that very well, gets caught in their wheels. It's a tripping hazard. So it's a completely smooth surface that allows for fall protection if kiddos were to trip and fall, and allows it to be 100%, again, accessible for all individuals.
Okay, so this is both these?
Yeah, both those. So we purposely kind of split them up into 3 zones to help give some space. So kiddos who have sensory needs, who get overstimulated in crowded areas, it's easy for them to kind of travel from space to space to give them a little bit of a break if they need it.
And so when you look at that, the splash pad is your bigger square. Then your second one, there's musical instruments along that sidewalk. This second one is an accessible merry-go-round with more musical instruments along the sidewalk, and these are Swizzler chairs,
seats.
Swizzler seats, yes. And to answer your question, part of the reason we are close to the blockhouse is to allow room for future expansion there, because we could easily add another sidewalk to another pad or 2 if this was ever something that the community wanted a phase 2 on.
Any other questions? I'm gonna turn it back over. Oh, sorry.
Okay. We're thrilled to hear that you're in favor, it sounds like, of the downtown location, but there have been others that had questions or concerns about the location. And so on that next page, we're just showing you this is 6 of many, a plethora. Like we said, these types of parks they're huge parts of downtown revitalization efforts. This is where new parks are going in downtowns, in historic downtowns. It's a balance between revitalization and preserving your history, and including new amenities that appeal to a broad range of ages and groups. So these are just some different splash pads that are in the middle of shopping, restaurants, retail, historic buildings. So that's just for you to see there. And then that last page and in your packets, on the left side of your folder, we have a whole bunch of support letters. I'm going to highlight lines from a few of them because you probably don't have time to read all of them, but we're excited that all of our students, including those who are so very special, will have a place they can all go to. Destry Brown, Superintendent, USD 234. The splash pad will provide a safe and accessible recreational asset that will impact our residents' quality of life, expand the local economy by bringing visitors to nearby commercial establishments, and diversify our amenities to meet varied interests and age groups. Lindsay Madison, President of the Chamber. We are writing in support for the proposed new park in our downtown. As active and engaged members of the Fort Scotts downtown, we are very excited for the opportunity to add the splash pad and a sensory park to the downtown area. This project will also support the growth of the downtown and its current amenities. Norm Kennard, Executive Director, Lowell Milken Center. The splash pad will be an oasis for all families to come and have fun without worrying if everyone can participate. Any project that provides family fun for all children is a worthwhile effort. Rachel French, treasurer for the Lillian Rose Foundation. I'm all for anything that brings activity, energy, and people to downtown. I believe the splash pad will prove to be a huge asset to Fort Scott and downtown in particular. John Crane, downtown business owner. We are very happy and eager to be able to promote this new addition of a splash pad and sensory park for our customers and families to enjoy in our wonderful downtown. This will bring new life to the downtown, providing family and tourist participation in a free activity. John and Cindy Bowman, New Grill. Many do not realize the extensive need and just how many families this playground will benefit, not only in our community, but the surrounding rural areas that cannot offer such an amazing opportunity, which will allow all children to feel included. This playground will offer families multi-generational, inclusive play, which ensures that all people can experience meaningful play and the benefits of physical, cognitive, social, and emotional development. This will not only benefit the families of these special children, allowing them to play together safely without fear of injury, but it also benefits all the other children and families in our community. This will teach friendship skills, problem-solving skills, positive self-image, and respect for others, while teaching children and their families to be more accepting of others and their differences. Brittany Halsey, special needs mama. Downtown Fort Scott is buzzing with new businesses, newly renovated historic buildings, and most importantly, a lot of both local and out-of-town visitors. We are steadily bringing back the vibe that downtown is a great place to be for shopping and eating local. The next step is entertainment, and there's no better way than to do it with the proposed splash pad and sensory park. Downtown has long been missing a place for families and children to have fun. This new attraction will provide the perfect opportunity for that. Kenny Felt, downtown business owner. Imagine a place where all kids could go to have fun. Imagine somewhere that you could take your son or daughter with special needs locally that would be accommodating and safe for them. Imagine somewhere that is inclusive and modified to meet everyone's needs regardless of their disability. This place is going to be right here in Fort Scott. Afton Heyer, speech language pathologist, USD 234.
Your sister?
Yeah. Breathing new life into the downtown can be done. The idea of this splash pad and sensory park is certainly a step in the right direction. It's my belief that the location that in downtown that the committee has picked is absolutely perfect. The downtown merchants will certainly benefit from this park with increased activity and sales in their stores and restaurants. Money spent in these local businesses stays in town. Let's all get behind this project and look to the future for a growing and prosperous downtown, as well as providing something more for our kids and families. Deb and Tim McKinney, downtown business owners. Downtown Fort Scott, historic Fort Scott is such a beautiful piece of history that everyone deserves to enjoy. Adding accessible options are necessary not only for the families of children with special needs in our community, but also those traveling through our town with children of different abilities that need tourist-friendly attractions that their entire family can enjoy. Olivia Kraft, founder of Lurie & Co. and Lillian's mama. We, the Artificers, would like to extend our full support in the vision and design as well as the location of the splash pad and sensory park. We feel that this will add an inclusive area for all children. We are excited to have this in close proximity to our art gallery. We are ADA accessible and are offering children's classes. We feel this will encourage children to stop in with parents, enjoy the beautiful art, take a class with us, and take the afternoon to enjoy the outdoors and beautiful downtown Fort Scott. That was Trent and Kate Freeman, the Artificers. I'm so happy to hear that Fort Scott is raising money for a splash pad and sensory area for our community. It is such a worthwhile project for our children and youth. Providing adaptive equipment that these children will be able to access and benefit from will be nothing short of amazing. Donna Davis, special education teacher and special needs mama. I won't go on. I think those capture the feelings of a lot of people. And again, those are one line out of a whole letter. So with that, I hope we've made our case to you. We're certainly happy to answer any questions. The last thing that's in your packet is a cost breakdown. The total splash park cost is $200,000. The total sensory and harmony park cost is $85,000. And then we're estimating approximately $25,000 for landscaping, benches, trash can, signage, etc. So that makes the inclusive park a total all-in cost at $310,000. We have, in record time, I think, raised $180,000, and we're anticipating at least a $30,000 reduction via in-kind services to that. So that leaves us with about $100,000 left to fundraise to be able to make this a truly inclusive park. So if you remember, we raised the money for the splash pad. We can move on that right away, but we feel like we're missing, in talking to people, the splash pad fulfilled a big need that we didn't have in Fort Scott, but we were missing something without that dry play area too. So it is our committee's intent to finish these fundraising efforts, and it is our understanding that you have been put in charge of what to do with the money that, the youth activities team fundraised when they started their efforts. How many years ago? I don't know, about 5 years ago. When they started, their intent was to build a truly inclusive, accessible sensory area in Fort Scott. So we're kind of taking their mission and running with it. We would ask that you allocate the money that they turned over to you to this project. We hope that you realize we've put in our due diligence, a lot of due diligence, a ton of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of volunteer hours on this project, guys. We will be good stewards of that money, and we want to make this happen for the kids. 5 years ago, the kids that would have benefited from that park they got their hopes up. They were super excited, and we want to give this to the community. And we have a few other grants that we're currently writing. If you allocate those YAT funds to us, that drastically cuts down that 100,000. And we have a few other grants that we're currently working on that we believe we have a great shot at getting. And we think that if you allocate those YAT funds to us, we are very confident that we can break ground on this entire park, not just the splash pad, but also the Sensory and Harmony Park in the spring, and open the entire park for our community to enjoy in the summer. With that, any of us would be happy to take any questions, and we certainly appreciate your time.
I have a question. What's the estimated timeline like from start to completion to actually build it all?
Yeah, so we are looking at breaking ground at the beginning of March. Hopefully, we are speaking to you. After you, we're speaking to Design Review Board, and then on Tuesday we go in front of City Commission. With the 3 of those groups' blessings, we will start ground prep work almost immediately as weather allows. And then the technical part of construction will begin beginning of March, and then weather permitting, we are shooting for an opening date sometime between May and May 31st. We're trying to be very respectful of the Good Old Days festival that is down there at the beginning of June, and we have overly stressed to the teams that we're working with that we need to be cleared out and completely done and ready for the public who come in for that festival, and locals alike, to enjoy that the first weekend of June, and they did not see a problem with that timeline.
Awesome. And then I got one more. Will the splash pad stay on past Labor Day? Because I know it's always been such a big deal with my kids, because when school starts earlier and earlier, it seems like mid-August the pool shuts down, and it's still nice and warm for another month.
It is, and that is completely will be up to the parks. You guys, maybe the parks department, the city overall. Basically, we can shut off the water when we see fit. So most communities that we've talked to, they don't have a hard end date. They kind of look at what the weather's doing, and then they'll kind of give a heads up, hey, we think we're going to be open for about 2 more weeks, and weather permitting, and then shut it down. Also, like Josh said, the water doesn't run all the time. There's an activator button that turns the water source on to the park, but then when you study these elements and the cause and effect and problem solving, it all just doesn't come on. There's, things you have to step on, things you have to turn, different things that will make the water go wider or harder or stronger, or so it's not just push a button and everything's going. It's a lot of things to appeal to a bunch of different age groups, and so yes. But our hope is, I know in the community when they shut down the pool, because I know they have trouble staffing the lifeguards once all the school activities start. One of the benefits of this is we require 0 staffing. So as long as it's warm, certainly we're not putting in all the work on this to have it shut off when it's still warm and can be enjoyed. So we definitely want people to enjoy it all the time. And then the benefit of adding that sensory and harmony area is that, as Meredith said, that is a year-round addition to this park. So our kiddos that are going to be so excited and have a place to go this summer don't have to feel like they don't have a place to go come fall.
Awesome. Thanks.
That was going to be one of my questions, schedule.
Also, there has been a lot of questions about how this works with the pool. As Josh said, we don't at all anticipate this to take away from attendance at the pool. There's a whole lot of different factors that, again, we've studied, and cost can be a barrier to entry at the pool for some families. Physical ability can be a barrier to entry. I know when I had 2 newborn twins, I was not about to take them to the pool by myself, and our pool here, they do not allow floaties. So for parents or grandparents or guardians that are taking multiple little children, that's a little scary, that's a little daunting, but to take them to the splash pad is a much more easy thing to manage. So. we do not at all anticipate this cutting down on attendance at the pool. And studies in other communities have shown that that did not cut down on their numbers at their public pools.
Any concern for the lack of restroom facilities in the vicinity?
That has been a question that we've been asked. Certainly, our group has talked about that potentially being a phase 2. If you aren't aware, this is, I'm not sure, did we put that on? Let's see. So right here, this parking lot right here is where the proposed farmers market pavilion is looking at going. That was part of the T-Mobile grant. And one thing the farmers market folks had asked for was something for children in the area of the farmers market, both the vendors' children who are there for hours on end while they set up their booths, and then the customers' children to be able to go play close to there. So with that being proposed adjacent to this, it's a great option for that as well. So I kind of lost my train of thought. What did you ask, Frank?
I could see
Sorry.
New Grill in La Hacienda getting a
Yeah.
lot of traffic into the
In the
restrooms.
bathrooms, yes. So
Or the fort.
with the addition of the farmers market pavilion down there, it is our hope. We have looked at some different grants that might be able to provide a public restroom, but our group is kind of looking at that as a potential phase 2 option. It's certainly not something we want to hold this up. You know, we have the opportunity to have this open at the beginning of summer here in town. So we would like to do that and then continue to try to work towards getting a public restroom down there in the near future. But that is why we talk to a lot of the retail, specifically retail and restaurant. As you look through those letters, we have letters from general, just downtown business owners, parents, the school district, but also we really talk to a lot of the restaurateurs and retail establishments, and they're excited. They're excited about more people coming in for this and more activity downtown. And if somebody goes into Papa Don's and needs to go to the bathroom, maybe they'll buy a ice cream cone or a pop. We also, with that, in your packets have this, which is going to be a window cling that we will give to any downtown businesses for free if they would like it. It just says, oh God, it says Splash Pad patrons welcome, please dry off, thanks. So just something to stick on their windows when this is a new thing for everybody. But to answer your question, bathrooms are not something that we have the funds to do now, but it is something that we are keeping in mind and looking at. And I think everybody on our group is happy to continue to work until we're able to make that happen. But we don't want to hold this up until we have that. You guys are welcome to come up here.
Any questions for,
I have a few questions. I have a few questions, but what I'd like to say first is that the presentation, organization, energy is very impressive. So
Thank you.
That's kind of helpful for the rest of us where we're limited on, we don't have to ask a lot of questions. So that's kind of nice. Are there existing uses right now in that area? Is somebody going to have to be uprooted and moved anywhere else?
So right now, that's city-owned property, and the city doesn't even mow it right now. It's mowed by a volunteer. So there's nothing there now. Craig gave me some crap that's his therapy, to sit on a mower and mow. So I told him we'd have to have plenty of landscaping there for him to do. But
I could put him to work.
yeah,
So other questions will be, is there shade? Because
yeah. So
you know,
part of the landscaping was shade canopies and benches
Okay.
and stuff like that. And hopefully
Okay.
with the pavilion, we can tie that in also.
Okay.
So,
My final question would be vandalism. How is that going to be monitored?
yeah, so that's,
Trail
I mean,
cameras
that's
again,
actually
or-
one of the selling points of this location. When we talked about the skate park or even Gun Park, Frank knows at Gun Park, I mean, them are out of sight, down there. And so this is
Yeah.
prime, the restaurants are open late, people are around, that road's traveled nonstop. So most vandalisms, isn't done on a high traffic area like Ellis Park. We've had vandalism up there with the city because no one's up driving up there. But that is, out of all the locations, that's the least of the concern at this location is vandalism.
I also feel like the, sorry.
the type of equipment's kind of vandal-proof, isn't it?
a lot of, I mean, there isn't a whole lot of stuff that, especially in the sensory part, that kids can hang on, that really pull. I mean, everything is anchored, concreted in, so it is pretty sturdy equipment that we're adding. But the other part about the dry zones being there, making it year round, people are gonna be there frequently, even in the off season of the splash park, which will hopefully, maybe somebody sees something that's fallen apart, they can say, hey, we saw that this got tipped over, versus it waiting until all winter, and then we get there, we're like, oh my gosh, what happened over the winter? So hopefully that kind of helps, also having some traffic there for.
And also, the splash pad elements can be removed during the winter. You basically take the element off and you have a concrete pad. And I believe, from what we've discussed, that would be the plan. And we have plenty of volunteer labor that have committed to doing that, so that that doesn't even take anything from the city staff that time of year. But once we determine that the temps are going to be too cold for people to continue to enjoy it, then we can remove those elements. And again, we have a landscaped concrete pad.
Yeah, that's basically, they say they can leave them up, but it'll extend the life taking them down. Each thing just has 3 bolts and it comes right down, so it's very, yeah, I mean, it wouldn't take an hour to remove all of them, so.
Thank you.
Questions? Seth, you haven't asked anything?
No. I have concerns, but it's a well thought out plan. What's the splash pad? Great location. Gun Park, we had started to add some sensory items down there.
Right.
What's the advantage of allocating the money for sensory equipment to here versus continuing what was started a year and a half ago at Gun Park?
And I'll let Meredith talk on that.
My thought, I have scouts there in wheelchairs, and it's kind of rough whenever we, as scouts, we go down there and, well, the one kid feels left out.
Sure. I think the biggest reason why allocating it in one fund is that then it's concentrated versus having one item that's sensory related at Gun Park. Now we have a whole park here. That $37,000 and then whatever else ends up being allocated from YACT would make a huge difference in these kids' life. Because just going to having, I know there's a swing down there that is handicap accessible. Unfortunately, it's up really high, so anybody of any weight, parents can't get their kids in it. This is just relayed from my patients. There is no accessibility to the park areas. There's no sidewalks, wheelchair accessible sidewalks. It's very uneven. So that $37,000 to buy, because like one piece of equipment could be $15,000 to make it accessible. So by putting this all together, we're making a concentrated space that provides multiple areas of option that is accessible for all kiddos, that allows them to play peer-to-peer no matter what the limitations are. And so I think the money will go a lot longer and a lot farther in making something accessible and truly useful for families in one area versus sporadically used throughout the town.
And we have also talked to families of special needs kiddos that are thrilled that this is going to be where they can unload, play for a while, and without loading back up in the car, get to, we have multiple restaurants downtown that are also ADA accessible, so it allows them to have a day out downtown without having a lot of barriers, and they're very, very excited about that.
And I mean, I'll just speak for the money side. As you know, like I said, this sensory was 5 years ago, and what they've done raising money is this will be done quick. I mean, it's not, what are we gonna do here next month, the month after, in a year? I mean, this is proposed to be done right away. So you'll actually see that money that's been sitting there dwindling over the last 5 years actually get put to use right away, so.
I also will say, we had a lot of donors reach out to us, and the first question was, how the heck did you guys raise this money so fast? And that brings me to a side point that we received some big grants that we owe a huge thank you to. The Timken Foundation, we put in for an extremely competitive grant across the nation, and we were awarded $75,000 from that grant. The Walmart Foundation, who, as you know, gives to a plethora of amazing things, gave us $40,000 for this park. We've had multiple $10,000 private donors. On Giving Tuesday, we raised $30,000 in 12 hours in Fort Scott, guys. $30,000. If that doesn't tell you how excited people are for this park, I'm not sure what will, because there's been groups that haven't raised $30,000 in 5 years. So I think people are very excited, and we want to build on that momentum and put this out there. But a lot of the people that had donated to YAT said, this is what we gave our money to 5 years ago. This is why we donated. We wanted to see this happen, not 5-10 years down the road. Our intent was not for somebody to hold on to our money. Our intent was for this to go to a park, and that's what we're trying to do.
As far as the YAT team, you know, Craig and I have been working with the YAT team recently on the house and some other stuff. So I think there probably is possibly more money coming from the YAT team from the house as well. That could possibly help to the parks or whatever you guys decide. So there could be other money that we'd hope we could help with us. But even if you want to put something else down at Gun Park, and there's no reason in the future why we can't have,
I'm all for
yeah,
making Gun Park
yeah,
so accessible. I want to see anyone be
yeah,
able to use it.
yeah.
And it worries me that we're taking on another park, and then we'll let that.
Yeah.
Sorry, it worries me if we're adding another one, will that one continue to not become
used.
accessible?
And I will say, if we had to mow this area, like right now, Riverfront was given to us, we spend $40,000 a year to mow Riverfront Park. We're actually probably maybe even saving money from mowing that Craig mows. But I get it, that's what someone says, we don't need another park, but every park is special its own way. And I think Frank can say, Gun Park is special. You know, a lot of people, we've talked about putting a bandstand in the back, and people are like, you know, a lot of people just like going out there and sitting and looking. And so, I mean, I think people forget this is already kind of a park area up there. So,
And you know, I'm a huge fan of parks.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard for me to drive past the park and not get out. But
yeah, you know, it came up on my Facebook timeline what we did a couple years ago out there. You
I
know,
like
so
parks.
yeah, yeah, I think this will.
It does worry me if it will take away from adding accessibility to Gun Park.
Right.
Because I believe that is
Yeah.
a worthwhile project.
Yeah.
To make it where,
If anything, I think it'll drum up more people, get more excited, and it'll just enhance all the parks in town and not just one. So.
And again, not to beat a dead horse, but if you look, parks are a huge part of downtown revitalization efforts. So just because we have amazing other parks in other areas doesn't mean that there's not a need for one downtown, and there is if you do that research. So before I forget, we're happy to answer any other questions, but if you would leave your packets, because we have 2 other groups to present to, if you want any information that you can look at after the fact, we'd be happy to send you this whole presentation.
I drew a little dinosaur on mine.
Oh, perfect. Well, then your next person will be excited. Any other questions?
Can I make a comment?
Yes.
So, I used to live in Leawood, Kansas, and the Leawood pool, just to give you an idea, I'm an advocate for this, so you got my vote.
Thank you.
Even at the pool, they had a splash pad there, and it was insanely popular, and it was fun. And I took both my kids when they were little, and that's where we spent 90% of our time. We went to the pool, and we went to the pool a lot. So I've seen what it does. I really like the idea. I think it's great and great presentation.
Thank you. We had people reach out from other towns, Chanute, Topeka, neighboring towns in Kansas, and tell us how putting in a splash pad in their downtown area just brought new vibrancy and new life to the downtown. So it's happening other places. I hope we get to see it happen here.
I would like to, if this goes through, I would like to see the bathroom it must be on, is it First Street or Second Street? You got
Yeah,
the bid on that? on
between
getting
first
that-
and second.
On getting that revamped
It's already
and
already in the
made
mix.
to be open year round, because right now it's getting locked up. It seems earlier and earlier every year that it gets
One
locked
thing
up.
I've talked to Brad about is now they have time locks. So if we want to lock it at 9 o'clock at night, vandals and stuff like that. So, but we definitely need to do some of that.
If this happens, that bathroom needs to be open.
Yeah, because
year round, and that's neat too.
and this is a tough thing about anything in politics or anything, because we have half people here saying it needs a bathroom, then we have half the people that seen what the bathroom is down there and say we don't need a bathroom because it's just going to attract vandals and stuff like that. So it's tough for us, you know, because we have to hear both sides of it. So
That bathroom's 2 blocks away.
Yeah.
yeah,
And we also discussed
And it
putting
just
that
needs a
on the
little love.
signage, public restroom,
Yeah.
2 blocks to
2
the
blocks.
south.
yeah, and I suggested then we wanted to wait till we get the bid back from the bathroom at Gun Park, kind of give us an idea of what a bathroom would cost down there.
Yeah.
So
But if you can just rehab that one.
Yeah.
And add some heat to it so it's open year round, problem solved.
yeah, I
It wouldn't
agree.
take much to rehab that.
No,
space.
I agree.
At Baby Change Station, because you know, guys, how I feel about Baby Change Stations. I'm all for it.
Any other questions? Madison, are you up to date on what we're even discussing?
A bit, yes. I know that once this gets in place, or if it does get in place, that it'll be part of our jurisdiction.
No, that's not what they've come to us about is the money that the YAT team handed off to us for management. Because they're doing multi-sensory elements as part of the splash pad, they have made a request to us that we consider some of that money for helping the splash pad.
Okay.
You think her dad would have informed her, but
I know, right? It's like your dad, you
I try to
guys
let her
don't
make her own
talk.
decision, so.
So, sir,
Can we make like a motion where we do take, so the 37,000, instead of giving all to them, hold back enough to redo the bathroom there so it's in good shape and can support the splash pad?
we have money for that.
Never mind then, forget that.
We'll find
needs
the money.
that.
Let Meredith, one final.
Just one final comment. I have talked to some people who were formerly on the YAC community, and they fully support the idea of that money going to this specific need in our community, which is a 100% handicap accessible and sensory stimulating environment. So just want to put that in your brains when you're thinking about this money and what it was raised for. The true intention of what this money was raised for was a completely finished, accessible park. So
I think it's fair to say probably that the YAT team had been aware that this was going to be all-inclusive. Parks Advisory Board would have never been given the funds. It would have gone direct to the splash pad.
Can I just make a motion, we get through this?
Yes,
Yeah.
please.
Okay.
Wait a minute. You don't have a mic.
I make a motion that we approve the, or give our, whatever.
You want me to help
Yeah,
you?
give our
This is a great use of the YAP funds.
yeah, and to the splash pad and support for that, and then turn over the YAT funds to them at whenever it's needed to be used for the all-inclusive sensory park.
I would add to that, there are potentially additional funds coming from the YAT, and it may not be directed our direction once the house sells, and as much as potentially $15,000 to $20,000 more. That YAT team may not even say, since the Parks Advisory Board, they may just go directly to the splash pad. But if they do send it to the Parks Board for management, that we also include that money in that as part of the motion.
I second that.
I agree.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
We good?
Do you need
Any
to
other
call for a
discussion?
vote? Do you need to call for a vote? No?
Do what?
You wanna
All in
call for a
favor?
vote,
Yes,
or all
please
in
call for a
favor?
vote.
Okay.
Or, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I think we could have done that 5 minutes into the presentation.
Oh, yeah, easy.
I was
Easy.
going to add, though, when you talked about the fundraising, which was spectacular, congratulations on that. It's probably a record for Fort Scott, but did you know Liberty Memorial in Kansas City was built at the end of World War I, 1918. They raised $3 million in less than a week by asking kids to bring pennies from home. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Pretty cool story.
Thank you guys for your time. We appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
We adjourn?
Yeah, they want us out of here. They got another meeting.
Yeah, just leave your packets, please.
In reality, you probably didn't even need